So we're going to discuss the opening of the month, the English opening. And the English opening is just one c4. White just plays the c pawn forward 2 steps, controlling the sender, making space for the queen to move out, and controlling the b5 square. So it keeps an eye on the queen side and the sender. So English opening is considered a quiet opening leading to long strategic battles. Here black has two normal options. One is to go e5, which is considered the king's English variation, and the other is to go symmetric English with c5. So when you go c5, white usually goes either e3 or knight f3 and gets the d4 break as fast as possible. And another thing in the English is, because the bishop has no useful diagonal here, normally you would play g3 and put the bishop on g2. See, Anjitoing the bishop on g2. So this is considered normal in the English system. And in the other line, after e5, the plans are pretty much the same. You can go g3 or knight c3 or d3. All moves are possible in English. English is a very flexible system, and that is why a lot of top players prefer to play the English opening. The moves are pretty much natural, and you can even castle queenside sometimes for black or for white and create interesting games. But it usually leads to quiet same side castling structures with long long results, like long games. So let me take you to a game played by our world champion Magnus Carlsen. He plays the English quite often. It's one of his favorite openings. So this was a game between Carlsen and Anand. Anand was black. Carlsen played c4, e5, g3 to develop the bishop on g2, d4, e4, d5, bishop g2, bishop b4, bishop d2, queen out, knight c3, castles, pawn forward, bishop goes back, pawn forward, d6, knight e2, takes. And finally opening is over. Both sides have castled. You could you could say that white is slightly better because of more developed pieces. Black still has to develop the bishop. Knight f6, bishop c3. Bishop g4 pinning the knight, but here there is a nice tactic for white to win a pawn. Can you spot it? It is bishop takes, queen takes, and not directly bishop takes pawn, because that will allow queen b2 with the threat on the knight. First b4 and then take the pawn. Now a5, black goes to activate the rook, but by the time another tactic comes in, bishop h7. So it's a very nice move because you can see the point. After king takes, the move is queen b1, hitting the bishop and the king. So undefended pieces fall off. He goes queen b6. Now Carlsen has 2 pawns up. There was a threat on the knight, by the way, but now rook has defended this rook. So bishop takes knight is now a threat. It wasn't a threat earlier when the rook was not defended. So now queen d4, not allowing bishop takes knight. Queen f3. Pieces are about to come to h3 and g2. Bishop h3 and queen g2 is a threat. Carlsen finds a nice way to stop it. If you go bishop h3, he will go queen e4. That's his plan, to stop queen g2 checkmate. So he goes rook e8, stopping queen e4. But by the time Carlsen plays another good move, pawn h3. If bishop takes, then queen h4 check comes. So bishop goes back, now queen f6. King g8, defending the pawn. Rook b1, rook d3. Anand shocks Carlsen with that move. Can you understand the reason for this move? What happens if I take the rook? If you take the rook, then queen g3 and queen h3 is a draw. White gets perpetually checked. He cannot get out of it. So that is the point of rook e3. So Anand gains back a pawn, but Carlsen calmly plays rook b7. Anand cannot take the knight because then there is mate in 2. So you can't do that. So you have to go and defend the f7 square. And he does that with the queen. Queen is defending f7. Rook b8 was also a threat that's stopped by the bishop. But now queen d8 and Carlsen just picks up the bishop. But rook takes knight. So it's basically equal material except for 2 pawns. And a third one now with rook f7. Can you find the point? It's the hardest tactic in this whole game. Playing rook f7. If queen takes, of course, queen takes rook and Carlsen has 2 pawns up. What happens after king takes, which is what happened? Queen d7, and wherever the king moves, queen d8 check. There's a fork on the rook and the king, and he picks up the rook. So basically, Carlsen still manages to be 3 pawns ahead right now. But of course, black can take, so he'll be 2 pawns up now. White is 2 pawns up, queen b4, king moves, queen d2, and then queen g4. Queen blocks, rook check, takes, and Carlsen smoothly converts his endgame. He just pushes his pawn forward, gets his king in the game, rook defending the pawn and behind the pass pawn, and king comes more forward and king g5. Black just resigned after rook d6. because white will play king g6 next, and then h7 and h8 and win the game. So this was a beautiful game by a world champion in the English Opening. So English Opening offers a lot of opportunities, flexibility for your pieces, and it's a very good opening for people who like long strategic games. So yeah, this is pretty much about the English